And welcome everyone to Friday, October 4th, our Perfect Connections conversation. Let's go around. Hi, everybody, to our watching audience at home or at your office or wherever you're watching it. I'm Susan Walker, formerly from the University of Minnesota, though it's still in my heart. And we will go around and we'll introduce ourselves. And folks will share if there's anything that they would like to talk about today. So I'll turn it over to Katie Anderson.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Anderson. I'm the parent educator in Jordan, Minnesota. And I would just love a few ideas on some new and fresh topics to do. I've got, a few parents that this is maybe even their third year with me, and they've probably heard most everything that I would go to. So I've just been kind of going through my files, going through the folder, the peer folder, looking for new ideas. So if anybody has anything that, maybe is a little different from the typical lessons that we all think about, I would love to hear any new suggestions. And I'll go to Sandy.
Hi, I'm Sandy Salter. I'm a parent educator, home visitor, marketer, and such for ECFE in Fairmont, Minnesota. I don't have any questions today, so I might have to turn off my camera so I can grab some lunch quick before I have to go to my next thing, but always enjoy listening and participating in these meetings. So I will turn it over to Ellen if she's available to introduce herself.
I am. I'm in the car. I'm heading home because I decided I was not going to stay at work a moment longer than I needed to this week. Ellen Hafner, parent educator in Northfield. And I'm kind of in a spot where my cell phone might cut out a little bit, but maybe the closed captioning will still catch it. I am wondering, I do home visits on a very infrequent basis. Usually it's preschool teachers who say, hey, this family could use some support. Or I have our birth to 3 team who is spending time with a family and that child may not qualify for services, but they're like, the parent could still use some support. So I will reach out to those parents. Sometimes I'll do a home visit. Sometimes I'll do a phone call, but then they sort of fall off the face of the planet. So my question is, how many times do you try to engage with them before you drop it? I have been doing some reflective consultation through the district and the state. I'm not sure how I got it. And one thing that I learned from a long time parent coach and home visitor with Head Start, she said, don't ever work harder than the family. If the family's choosing work, then, expend a little bit more energy. But so that's my question. How many times do you try before you get really irritating and then they're like, stop calling it? Then you turn into a telemarketer. So that is my question.
And Ellen, do you want to continue our discussion from last week about the family and the kiddo?
Yeah, we sure can. I can just give a quick update on that. I mean, we don't have to, but unless Sandy and Katie want to talk about it, and if anybody else has joined, I can't see. We have a kiddo who really could use services, and mom and dad are extremely resistant. They think that special ed will crush his spirit, and that we are forcing him to mold into the school district. We're forcing him to be what we want him to be instead of allowing him to be who he is. And I was just looking for words to help her understand that what we want to do is make sure that we understand how he works so we can meet his educational needs. And if anybody else has words of wisdom for how you get that really, really stubborn parent to finally just pull the trigger. He was in referral. We had him in and she pulled out. So And he's 4.5 and he's choking children on the playground. So this is a real problem. It's a real problem. But then today she's like, he had a much better week. And I was like, okay, well, that's not what I'm hearing. So yeah. So just words for me to help her understand what we are trying to do.
Thank you. Good. Well, great topics, you guys, once again. Well, let's bump up first to Katie's on ideas for new and fresh topics. Yesterday when I was presenting to the parenting educators, I was remembering one family that had been in ECFE for 20 years, 0 years, because I think they had like 6 kids, and then they'd return, right? And so that said, I've also heard from people, it's really helpful to hear with the next kiddo, it's nice to hear the same stuff. But if you have the same child and you're there for 3 or 4 years and you started as with your child as a newborn, it certainly, I can see where you'd be looking for other topics. So Sandy, Ellen, what do you think? Are there new and fresh topic ideas that you could suggest for Katie?
I don't really
Katie,
have any. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ellen.
Katie, I will send you my lesson plan. I did a lesson last year on boundaries, specifically Dr. Becky's definition of boundaries, and it was super like attitude shifting for families. They were blown away because Dr. Becky Kennedy says a boundary is something you do that requires your child to do nothing. And because parents are like, my child won't hold the boundary, or I can't hold the boundary. I'm like, well, but are you doing something? So basically it's like, and I use one of her clips where she says, we live in New York City. We need an elevator. My son goes in and he pushes the buttons and he pushes the buttons. And I say, don't push the buttons. You push the buttons. She said, a boundary is where I say, I'm not going to let you push the buttons. And I will put my body in front of his. So we talk about what is a boundary, and then we practice setting boundaries. And parents were like, this is amazing. So I did that at like winter last year. And then my parents kept repeating it. They're like, remember what a boundary is. A boundary requires you to hold it and your kid to do nothing. Because I think a lot of times people think of a boundary as don't touch the stove. And then like, they don't listen to my boundaries. Well, okay. You need to do something because their brains aren't old enough, big enough, mature enough to not touch the stove. So how are you going to set the boundary so they don't have to do anything? So I will send that to you. And then Susan,
Fabulous. Thank you.
I'll send the link. I'll put the link in the chat so you can add it to the notes, because I don't mind if other people.
Great, thanks.
Thanks a lot, Ellen. That's great.
I think, yeah, I've heard a podcast from her on that. But yeah, that does sound like a great lesson, Ellen. The only thing I was going to say is sometimes I feel like the parents still need information. They still want to talk and like go through a topic that maybe they have heard, but they still need some more information or some repeated information. But I just try to like start it in a different way, or just, I mean, I'm sure you do this too, Katie, but just, have a different format for the lesson. But like today, for instance, I put a question up, would you rather handle a crying baby or a toddler tantruming? And then I had them go into like Excalibur because I'm really missing Jamboard, but I wanted to try that. So I tried Excalibur and had them go in there because it could be anonymous, and they typed in either baby or tantrum. And just from that, them being anonymous and being able to start the discussion out like that, then I said, if you'd like to share why you chose that or why you typed that in, that would be great, let us know or whatever. And then the discussion just naturally unfolded. And these are parents that I've had for a couple of years too. So sometimes it just takes a different way of approaching the topic, and like we go a completely different direction we've never gone before. And so for me, I think that's helped to try to just think of different ways to pull them into the topic instead of the other things I've tried before. So that's just a thought.
Sure. Thank you. That's really good. Like, you know, like development and temperament, which they need to hear, but like, how can we present it a little bit differently? So, okay, that's a good idea. Just think about it a little differently. Okay. Thank you, Sandy.
Sandy, I just looked that up online. Is that the correct link
Draw.
tool?
Yes, that's correct. And what I did with my parents is I use Seesaw to communicate with them. So I opened up an Excalibur board and I sent them the link to that board. You can share it with a link. So I just sent the link in their Seesaw and I said, can you please get your Seesaw message out and click on that? And then, you know, it's easy from there. They just have to double click and it brings up a cursor that they can type. So it's the first time I've used it, but it seemed to be pretty smooth as long as you have a nice way. I mean, you could do a QR code too if you just put the link into a QR code that they could just scan too. I thought it would be easier to just send the link right to Seesaw.
Sure. Great, thanks. So Katie, my question is, I sometimes wonder about, like, I mean, have you asked parents, just kind of gone to them and said, they're the standard topics we talk about, every year. And it seems like you all just really resonate with them because they all relate to positive parenting and, and all of that. But I realize that sometimes for those of you who are here every year, we might be returning to stuff. Are there any of those topics you'd like to just dig in deeper? Like this is our opportunity rather than just going through the same stuff, but we can dig in deep. So it's basically, just like a needs assessment.
Yeah, so I use that Connecting to Learn curriculum a lot from Jen and Becca. I just find it so helpful. And they have that awesome, it's called it's like a first day parent handout. So they can write, my favorite thing about coming to this program is in parent group, I really hope we talk about. So typically they'll give a few ideas from that. And so instead of like a topic list already written out, I kind of have them fill this out and it's been great. And then they can write little comments or additional thoughts here. So I do feel like I get a sense, but it's the discipline and tantrums and things that, we've done it 100 times. So how do we make it new? Or how do I throw in maybe a new topic that they maybe didn't know about, like boundaries. That is, that's definitely a good one. But yeah, I guess I haven't really asked them, that question, like what are some topics that we've maybe done before that you maybe like to revisit. But yeah, I have found this to be really, really helpful. And I'm chomping at the bit for volume 2 of the Connecting to Learn to come out, but I don't know when. I don't know if Jen and Becca even know when it's coming out, but I can't wait for that. So
I will look that up too. Sometimes with topics too, I think people will respond with what's at the top of mind. And it's almost like that conversation we had last week about, being a bridge to another field and so it's sort of like Sandy's question about would you rather this or this, where you might take something like discipline and then add in discipline plus boundaries, or so that it's giving them a practical application to you know, and so if discipline is what they're dealing or their challenge is, you can also teach a topic about boundaries, but apply it to discipline, you know, or is there new research related to spanking, or, you know, I don't know. It's just like, this is where I think our expertise kind of comes in, where we can see a topic really broadly and with a lot of different nuances to it, because we've taught it a lot and we've read a lot and we've presented it to different people. But if we ask parents directly, they may not know, right? And so it could be on our own, we do that intersection of that same topic plus something new, if that makes sense.
Yep. Completely. Yes, thank you, everybody. Those are really good ideas. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble. I can't get online. Apparently I don't have Wi-Fi at home.
Oh.
So I'll get that boundaries lesson posted here shortly. Something else that I want to do is with that new report that has come out, I want to print that sucker off and show it to families and be like, look, like, look at this. Like, this is you guys. These are your words. And I want to kind of dig into what is stressing families out. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is, like, is it social media? And like, how do we break, what is it? You know what I mean? So basically I think I want to do a whole social media and parenting. And I'm going to use my example of, you know, my daughter's a freshman in college, and a couple of weeks ago, a lot of moms that I know got together to make care packages to send to their college freshmen who were all doing so great. And I felt like I was punched in the gut. And boy, did that mommy guilt, like not mommy guilt, the mommy comparison. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm having such a trouble today. That comparison monster came out, right? And I felt like I did. My kid isn't potty trained. My kid isn't walking. My kid isn't reading, right? And had I never seen that picture, I would have never known that was a thing, right? Because I'm like, my kid's not doing well. What's wrong with my kid? What's wrong with me? So I kind of want to share that as an experience, because if I'd not seen that post, I wouldn't have felt crappy. But because I saw that post, I felt like crap. So I want to really dig in with them and find out, what are you seeing online that makes you feel like crap? And how are we going to fix it? How are you going to make it better for yourself? Because as a society, we are stuck here. Like, this is not going away. So I have a feeling it's going to be deep and raw. And I'm probably going to wait until winter, until my classes are, for the most part, a little bit more established. I have a couple that I could hit that right now, and I have a couple that need a little bit more forming and norming. So, but yeah, I really want to do that.
Ellen, clarification. So you said the report that came out, you mean the Surgeon General's report on
Yes.
and isolation?
Yes, Surgeon General's report. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I printed that off yesterday too. Yeah. I want to look at that.
Yeah. And I just threw in, you know, and maybe because I teach this stuff, is just that social media and parenting, you know, there are basically three different ways of looking at it. And what Ellen's talking about is the social media as a facilitator or as an influence on parents, so that parents using social media and that impact on their own sense of connectivity, but also parents are influenced through social media, versus social media as like, I need to know more about social media to protect my kid from cyberbullying. Like, that's a content area that we teach, right? I think it's important that we, you know, discriminate those things. So, but yeah, I think that's I applaud you, Ellen. I think that it's a reality. And especially for a younger generation of parents who grew up with social media. And for a lot of them, I would imagine, carry some trauma about social interaction via social media into their parenting experiences. And so, you know, it's a new generation, whereas you all came into it and sort of discovered it, you know, what's this generational difference too about sort of PTSD and trauma from experiencing social media on you as a human being, and then transposed onto your parenting, you know, so yeah. Great. Okay. So is that helpful, Katie?
Very much. Yes, I'm just jotting down notes because I do want to do a lesson on social media. And I think a couple of other things you could throw in there are, you know, how do you decide which accounts to follow? Like, you know, what do you, so yeah, that's, you could do a lot with that, I think. Thank you, everyone.
My
Appreciate it.
administrator just told me about a week ago that she's ordering a book for me about social media and technology and screens and all that, and the effects on kids, that she just said is amazing. And for some reason, I cannot find the title of it right now. I just looked, but remind me after after another week or two. Hopefully, by the time I get the book, then I'll share it with you. She said it's amazing, and she wants me to read it like ASAP. So
Yes, let us know.
Yeah, I'd be very, very interested in that. I'm giving a talk at the end of the year in Hong Kong, actually, around technology and families. And so, you know, I retire and then things get kind of dusty. Shh, Hong Kong people, no, really, I know what I'm talking about, you know? And so I really appreciate mentioning like newer stuff that's coming out, because I follow the news, and I have all these different sites, Common Sense Media and Digital Parenting and stuff like that, that kind of keep pushing, you know, current material. And but I really appreciate, because I try to make stuff as practical as I can about newer literature and newer things that parents are hearing. So I really appreciate that, Sandy. If you could, if you could share that. Clearly, is she a mom? Your coordinator?
Well, she's a stepmom and more of a grandma. She like loves her grandma role. So
yeah. So it must have been impactful for her. So
yeah.
So that's the other thing that makes me really interested in it, is what are those messages that are really getting to parents and are very helpful to them. So good.
Right. Yep.
Okay, well, let's move to Ellen's. Ellen, it's your choice. Should we nail down, we should have this discussion about the stubborn parents and the words to help their kid? Or I'm just thinking about time. We've got about 15 minutes. Or do you want to flip to the home visiting?
Yeah, let's flip to, it's okay. I think last week, you know, we kind of talked a little bit about it, and I feel like anyone watching the videos can be like, yeah, we talked about that. I think, you know, if anybody, and I meant to ask on family friends, it just didn't happen. So I'll just ask on family and friends for more information, you know, for more ideas and words and how to explain this to mom. So yeah, let's do the home visiting one.
It's tough though. You know, I wondered about, somebody mentioned last week just about are there other people that she would hear? You could say the same words, but have it delivered from a different messenger.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because, you know, because she just doesn't believe any. She's like, my kid did what? But today it came out in class. So I have this family on Fridays class. Today it came out in class. So I have a mom who's a myofacial therapist. So she does like teeth and tongue and breathing and tonsils and all that stuff. And I think she's helping me because this mom with this kiddo who was, you know, really doing terrible things out on the playground said that her son sleeps from 8 to 4 every day, 8 a.m. to 4 a.m. He goes to bed at 8, he gets up at 4 a.m. every day. And I knew that he wasn't a great sleeper, but I didn't know it was that bad. And he does not nap. So just biologically, he needs more sleep, right? But she said, but he won't go back to sleep. And you know, and he does all these spectrumy things. And then she mentioned something about how he sleeps in weird positions. And my mom, who is this therapist, she's like, tell me more about how he sleeps. And so she said, he'll sleep upside down. He'll sleep. And apparently, fun fact, if you have a child who sleeps in weird positions and they're like dangling this way or whatever, they're compensating because they can't breathe and they're probably having sleep apnea.
Huh.
And there's the kids that are awake every hour. They don't sleep well. They're up very, very early. I had no idea. And so she said, get his tonsils checked. And so this mom's like, okay. And so, you know, and this mom last week was also asking if her husband would be, you know, because we've mentioned therapy, you know, maybe he needs some OT or PT. And she was like, yeah, I don't really think he needs that. And this therapist was like, well, what if it was through the school district? You know, would your husband be a better, happier if it was through the school district? She's like, no, not really. So this other therapist in my class she's helping me. And I'm not saying a word, right? I'm letting it. So I'm hoping if it comes from somebody else in a professional setting, maybe from another mom who has this expertise, you know, maybe I'll get lucky and that she'll finally listen to someone else besides me, because she's heard it from a lot of people over many years. And she's just like, no. So.
Wow. Just even listening to you talk about this kid and sleeping, I grieve for the mom. I mean, that must be.
I know, yeah.
So,
it's been hard. He's never slept well.
yeah.
And she tells me that sleep is better. And I'm like, okay. But then now today, it's, you know, how parents sometimes it's omission. You know what I mean? How people don't like outright lie, but they just don't tell you everything that's happening. And I was like, he gets up at 4 every day. No wonder he's a hot mess all the time. He's tired. And she's like, well, he's just kind of a kid and he just doesn't need much sleep. I'm like, no, that's not a thing. But she just makes excuses constantly. She makes excuses for his sleep. She makes excuses for his weird play. She makes excuses for him choking kids on the playground. And you know, he needs services. I don't know what he needs, but he needs more than what we can provide. So yeah.
Well, without getting too psychobabble about it, I mean, it almost sounds like she's making excuses because she is also protecting her sense of guilt, you know, or protecting.
Possibly so. Yeah, possibly
you
so.
know, it's just like, because if I deny it, then it's not a real thing. And
right.
I don't have to bear the responsibility of all those things that I could be doing better, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So anyway.
Okay.
So yeah, that's fine. We can move on.
Yeah.
We can move on.
Yeah. It's tough though, but thank you, Ellen. Thanks for.
It is. No problem. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
as far as home visiting, yeah, I don't do home visits. I would like to in the future. I think I've put that out there as a question before, like here I am in little Jordan and the parent educator has never done home visits. How do we start that? But yeah, so I unfortunately can't give you any great suggestions. I wish I could.
Okay.
You know,
that's something else I could ask on the page too.
Oh, right. Right. But I think that you're the person you're doing reflective guidance, supervision,
consultation, reflective supervision or consultation. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I agree with them in terms of there is wisdom, because I mean, if you put yourself in the parent situation, right, and you've been referred and then somebody invites the service or whatever, and you have a crap time going on in your life, you're really stressed, whatever, this is a foreign person or somebody you don't know. Anyway, all of that litany of stuff, and you just don't respond. I mean, why don't people respond when something is offered to them, right? And then it comes by again and they still don't respond. You know, at some point they're going to get pissed off, and that they're really going to be alienated. Like, these people won't leave me alone, right? So it might just be a matter of timing.
And I text. I always text. I'll text mostly, and then sometimes I'll leave a voicemail. But I feel like after the third time of no response, I feel like, all right, I'm pretty much done now.
Yeah.
know if
And I
that's,
know I would be.
if there are
I
people
would
who
maybe
try,
be
who
apt-
do more.
I would maybe be apt to kind of be like, well, what did I do wrong, or why don't they like me? And it's more than likely on their end. It's just not working for some reason. It's nothing you did or didn't do,
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I just know that their life is chaos. Typically these families they're struggling. And, one more phone call with me probably isn't like on their to-do list, We're like, let's get through the day. So, yeah.
And was this something they had asked initially?
No,
Yeah, so.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, just
it wasn't.
anecdotally,
It
like
was
I'm looking,
something asked. Mhm.
yeah, I'm looking for services.
Well, I
for-
had rapport with them.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
So
I had
then-
rapport with them. Like one family, I went to her house a couple times. I was like, okay, let's meet again. And so, okay. I think I finally figured out, I'm gonna get that lesson into the chat before we leave.
oh, good, okay. Yeah. And Ellen, what I did, you remember a few weeks ago where I used your time talking to the folks here about discussion, like, facilitating discussion with parenting educators, and what was your advice to other parenting?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, which was great, because so I gave this thing yesterday to folks in St. Paul, and then that link is to the drive of resources that I shared with them, including Carrie Yuso's reflective questions that she shared with us this summer, which I thought was great. And I tied that into adult learning theory. And then, but I also added, one of the big things you all talked about was being confident as an educator, right? And then having flexibility. So that it's better to be in the moment and not worry about not completing the lesson, and really, letting parents talk if parents want to talk and they need to, and all of that. So just circling back to thank you for contributing your thoughts and ideas a few weeks back. They were very, very helpful. Of course. It's tricky. It is, I gotta say, doing professional development with you all is not an easy thing. It is not an easy thing. Especially, and I was reflecting myself on this yesterday, and this comes from doing our Friday noon talks for 4 years. I don't know, 20 to 24. Is that 3 years or 4 years? Maybe this is 4 years.
Four, I
Yeah,
think.
doing this for 4 years. Is you've made it even harder for me to do professional development, because you're all so incredible and you're so experienced and you're so wise and you have so much to give and so much to share that, quite honestly, I am sort of gobsmacked to think of a better professional development than you guys meeting like together and talking out stuff. So anyway, so again, perspective shifted with experience as an adult learner. But anyway, so Ellen, anything else on reaching out to these parents? I mean, it's kind of a tough thing when you say never, when you quit.
When I just leave a note like, hey, if you need anything in the future, you know where to find me. And I just end it.
Yeah, I was just giving this, just personal anecdote of we're getting, like some little service stuff, concrete stuff and that sort of thing. So I reach out to all these different places online and, do their online form. And at some point, anyway, so some of them have these automated things where they'll reach out and they'll go, so we heard from you and you were looking for services. And I'm like overwhelmed and I'm talking to other people and I ignore it. And then 2 days later, I get we reached out to you. Are you interested in services? And I don't respond. And then, and I'm never sure if it's a bot behind it. And like, I'm not hurting anybody and artificial intelligence feelings. Does AI have feelings? Or is this a human being who is like manually sending these emails out? And so the third one I think came out and basically said, well, we haven't heard from you. And so if you'd like us to stop contacting you, just let us know, and
That's a really, I should probably respond no to unsubscribe. Yeah.
Well, what that did was that got me to respond to say, oh, I haven't responded. I really appreciate all this. We've moved on, right? But they then heard from a human being. So that third response actually prompted validation that they were writing to the right person, like that they were reaching. I know you already know that, Elena, because you have contact with these parents, but sometimes it just, then they can say thanks, but no thanks. Like you can actually hear from them rather than getting ghosted. So. Cool. All right. Well, anything before we wrap up? Well, thank you for your wisdom.
This is kind of unrelated, I'm sorry, but has anybody watched any good movies or shows like on HBO or Netflix? Like it's Friday night and I needed, like my husband and I need something new to watch. Sorry, this doesn't have to take very long, but any ideas?
I just finished that Nobody Wants This. It's a really cute, I think it's maybe 6 or 8 half-hour episodes, little rom-com. It's from a book, but it's about a sort of a young man who's a rabbi, and he meets a young woman, Kristen Bell, actually, who is not. And so it's sort of that tension around, can they have a relationship? Can they make a relationship work when he's a rabbi? And it's not just his being Jewish, but like in his position, it's critical that he is with a woman of the Jewish faith. So it's light.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very easy watch. It's a good binge watch. There are very few things that I will watch and then want to continue. Heartstopper is another one, which is a lovely British series about 2 teenage boys who are gay, and it really is lovely. And it's
sort of heartwarming and endearing. It's just lovely.
Yeah.
What platform is that on? Did you say it?
Both of those are Netflix. Both are
Netflix.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I've heard of the first one.
Yeah, so that one is new. I mean, I think that came out late August, and again,
it's in its 3rd season.
Yeah, and then Heartstopper.
Heartstopper's in its 3rd season. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And do you have Hulu?
Yes.
Only Murders in the Building.
Yes, I have. I've seen most of that. I do like that too.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
We love it. Steve Martin
Oh.
and yeah, it's so good.
I know. I remember
so
thinking those 3, I don't know how those 3 work together.
Oh, they work just great.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
they just do.
And if you need a fun movie on Netflix, I think it's still on Netflix, is Sing Street. And Sing Street is done by the same person who did the movie Once, that came out about 10 years ago or so. And there's a couple other things that Jim Carney has done, but it's these Irish kids in the 1980s. And it's about a boy at a boys' school who's trying to impress this teenage girl. And the way that he does it is by inviting her to be in a music video, which then means that he's got to create a band to be able to create this music video. Anyway, it's light, but there's family stuff in there, and especially his relationship with his older brother. Oh, bye, Sandy. And it's all like big 80, like
Mm,
all the 80s genre of like The Clash and, you know, stuff like that.
Perfect,
Yeah, you'll love it. It's
perfect.
my go-to.
Music, that's my jam. Yep.
Recommend. I've watched it for the 4th time with a friend a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
Yeah. So, yeah.
thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad I missed that parade.
Yeah.
It's been so worthwhile. Oh, man.
All right, we'll
It's
close
just a
out for
bunch
today.
of high schoolers sitting on floats. Oh, well, but. oh
Right.
well.
All
Yeah.
right, guys, I have another meeting in a little while,
Yep.
so I'm gonna go get some outdoor air.
Yep. And I've got a
Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
See
Bye,
ya.
everyone.
Bye.